DeSantis just banned this at Florida airports, and honestly, you're going to be so glad he did. This new law comes with big fines and can charge you with a felony if you're caught doing it or letting somebody else get away with it. In this video, I'll show you how the skies over Florida just got a whole lot bluer thanks to this law, why air traffic controllers can now get fined for not reporting it, and how the US government's been busted spraying chemicals into the air on its own citizens. Let's jump in. Florida isn't messing around anymore when it comes to our health and safety. Back in June, Governor DeSantis signed a new law that straight up bans weather modification across the entire state. It officially went into effect on July 1st, but here's the best part. As of October 1st, every airport in Florida is now legally required to comply and shut it down. That means airports have to report any aircraft that's equipped with weather control gear, stuff like aerosol sprayers, cloud seeding tech, anything designed to mess with the temperature, rainfall, or even sunlight intensity. The law doesn't tiptoe around it either. If your plane's up there trying to intervene in the atmosphere, you're now in violation of state law. And yes, there are real penalties. We're talking a third-degree felony and up to 5 years in prison and $100,000 in fines if you're caught doing it. If you're an airport manager or air traffic controller who fails to report a suspicious plane, you're not off the hook either. That's a $5,000 fine just for keeping quiet. And no, this wasn't some backroom conspiracy. This was a real bill passed by the Florida legislature. And the lead sponsor was Senator Ileana Garcia, a Republican from Miami. She stood up and said, enough is enough. Florida's not going to be a testing ground for geoengineering. The law even repealed the old system where companies could apply for weather modification permits under a different name. And airports, they're now the front line. They got to track these planes, report them, and block them from landing, or they risk getting slapped with fines too. Bottom line, this is now Florida law and it's happening, and you better believe people are watching. Because people in Florida are sick of looking up and seeing our beautiful blue skies streaked with white clouds. Governor DeSantis is leading the charge, and he's flat out said that no one should be messing with Florida skies. And it's not just Floridians pushing back. Big name politicians are going on record and demanding change on the federal level too. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this on X. The Sunshine State is getting it right. Florida is shutting down dangerous weather modification and geoengineering schemes because our skies belong to the people, not globalist elites and their experiments. Now it's time to do the same nationwide. My Clear Skies Act will end chemical spraying, geoengineering, and weather manipulation across America for good. No more tampering, no more lies, just clear, God-given skies. Her Clear Skies Act would be a huge win for America if they can get it passed at the federal level. And honestly, even if you don't believe in any of this, how could you be against a law that just makes sure our skies stay clean and chemical-free? And she's not the only one who wants to end it. Here's Lee Zeldin, who's the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, under Trump.
To anyone who's ever looked up to the streaks in the sky and asked, what the heck is going on? We're seeing headlines about private actors and even governments looking to blot out the sun in the name of stopping global warming. We've endeavored to answer all of your questions at the links on your screen. In other words, I want you to know everything I know about these topics, and without any exception.
And then we got one of my favorite Trump-appointed secretaries, my man, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was asked about the chemicals being sprayed in our skies.
That is not happening in my agency. You know, we don't do that. It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes,
so,
sir.
you know, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think only about that, find out who's doing it, and holding them accountable.
Yes, sir.
So this isn't fringe anymore, and it's definitely not a conspiracy theory. These are elected officials and agency heads talking about weather modification and how it needs to end. Laws are being written, investigations are underway, and I think we'll have some answers pretty soon. But we gotta ask the obvious question, what exactly are they trying to stop? Well, there's two words that I'm gonna break down: chemtrails and contrails. Contrails are what happen when a jet engine burns fuel and leaves behind water vapor. If the air is cold enough, that vapor condenses into ice crystals, basically artificial clouds. Some disappear fast, others can hang around in the sky for hours, depending on altitude and humidity. Chemtrails are different. They linger longer, spread wider, and don't behave like water vapor. It's believed that planes are retrofitted with nozzles on their wings that can turn on or off and can spray chemicals into the upper atmosphere. That's what Florida airports are tasked with stopping. Or, like Bobby Kennedy said, that it's allegedly in the jet fuel. And here's the part that nobody wants to talk about. Governments have been openly spraying things into the sky for decades. More on that in a minute. Cloud seeding is a great example of what's going on. It's a real documented process where planes dump chemicals into the clouds to make it rain. The most common substance used? Silver iodide, potassium iodide, and sometimes dry ice. These particles help water vapor condense and fall as rain. And just a few months ago in Texas, cloud seeding happened right before a massive flood. Days later, over 100 people were dead, including kids at a summer camp. Officials said it was unrelated, just bad timing, and there's a good chance that that may entirely be true. But still, cloud seeding right before one of the deadliest floods in Texas history? That's one hell of a coincidence. Then there's something bigger and even more sinister. Stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI. That's when they spray reflected particles into the upper atmosphere to bounce sunlight back into space and cool the planet. But listen, blocking out the sun is wrong, and it's insane. They're messing with the Earth's natural systems, and nobody knows what the long-term damage could be. What does that do to rainfall, to crops, to human health? And once that stuff's sprayed into the air, it stays there for years, and they can't stop it. They don't have answers, but they're pushing forward anyway. That's not science. That's a giant experiment on the Earth. And here's where it gets even worse. The US government's been tied up in this stuff for decades. Remember when they told us to trust the science and all of it turned out to be lies? Well, this isn't new. The government's been running secret experiments on its own people for years without telling anybody. And what they've done in the past will blow your mind. Back in 1950, the US Navy thought it'd be a good idea to turn San Francisco into a science experiment. They were testing how vulnerable a major city would be to a biological attack, so they sprayed a cloud of bacteria off the coast and let the wind carry it straight into the city. People were walking around, going to work, drinking the tap water, completely clueless they were part of a military test. The bacteria they used were Serratia marcescens and Bacillus globigi, names you probably haven't heard of and I obviously can't even pronounce. But hospitals started seeing strange infections soon after, including one rare case that ended up killing a guy. The government's response? Don't worry, those bacteria are harmless. Sure, tell that to the family of the guy who died. And then again, during the 50s and 60s, the Army took things even further in St. Louis. They picked mostly black neighborhoods and started running secret tests. No disclosure, no warnings. They set up chemical blowers on rooftops, schools, even inside station wagons, and started pumping zinc cadmium sulfide into the air. People were living their lives totally unaware they were being exposed. Decades later, some of those residents started reporting serious health problems. And the government's excuse? They said it was safe, same as before, but they never told anyone what was going on until years after the fact. So when someone asks, would the government ever really spray chemicals over its own people? They already did. And these are only the cases we know about. Why would they stop now? And weather modification is a giant money-making industry, so it attracts all kinds of shady people. And listen, anytime you hear the name Bill Gates, your alarm bells should go off. He's not just messing with fake meat and vaccines, he's also deep into weather control. According to ABC News, Gates and a group of researchers filed a patent back in 2008 for methods to control and prevent hurricanes. The idea? Use a fleet of ships to churn up the ocean and cool the surface. Then there's this Fund for Innovative Climate and Energy Research, or FICER. It's a private fund Gates started to back risky climate experiments. It's paid millions into Harvard's geoengineering program, including SCOPEX, where the plan was to spray calcium carbonate into the upper atmosphere to reflect sunlight. What's up with everybody wanting to block the sun? That's your actual stated goal. Dim the sun to cool the planet. In the Sunshine State. That's why DeSantis is saying, Harvard eventually shut the project down in 2024 after enough people and governments pushed back. But the funding, still going. And Gates, he's still involved. And he's not the only one. There's an entire industry forming around this stuff. A recent article from the Center for European Policy Analysis breaks it down. Solar geoengineering is already being tested. US companies are launching sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. Billionaires are backing it, and now Europe's calling for a ban while the US pushes ahead. This isn't some future tech, it's happening now, and nobody voted for it. This is why I love living in Florida. When something doesn't feel right, we don't wait around. We pass laws to protect people. Whether you believe in chemtrails or not, this should be the easiest law to support. If there's nothing going on, then fine, the law changes nothing. But if there is, at least someone's doing something about it. We shouldn't need to debate that billionaires and government agencies should not be allowed to mess with the sky. Spraying chemicals, blocking the sun, none of that should be happening, and they should not be experimenting on the planet or the people. And now in Florida, they can't. That's how it should work. If you liked this video, hit subscribe to help the channel grow. I got another one dropping in a few days, and you're gonna wanna see it. If you can't wait, click here to find out why this Florida lawsuit paid me $1, and you won't believe why. There's a secret group of people called funders getting rich off lawsuits. I'll show you who they are, how it works, and what Florida needs to do to shut it down. Click here, and I'll see you there.